This is Daniel, the founder of Bookkeeping for Painters, and today I'm here with Amer from contracting.com. How's it going today, Amer?
Another day in paradise, man. How are you?
Doing well. I'm excited to jump into the podcast today, and we're talking about hiring. But before we dive into that topic, can you kind of give me a sense of what your journey's been, starting your painting business and now working at contracting.com?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually was hired as a quote unquote sales manager by my first ever mentor. His name's Michael Holly. I used to work at like a bank, just making barely any money. And I wanted to learn more about the world of business. So Michael essentially saw something in me, and I saw his job application looking for a sales manager. I'm like a young guy at that point. I'm like, oh, I would love to have the word manager in my name. Like, that sounds cool. I can flex on my friends. All it was door to door. So that's all it was. But he wanted me to progress to like sales manager and learn that. So he ran a fantastic painting business. I mean, he's one of the most systemized individuals I've ever met and a really great leader. Um, I think some of the greatest leaders are ones that are able to hold their frame in front of different people and under different circumstances. The values that they create, they can really hold. They're not just like a plastic bag in the wind. Michael was like that. So I wanted to make as much money as possible, and I wanted to learn under his mentorship on how to build like a great business. And so that's exactly what I did for that summer, and picked up on a lot of skills. Probably one of the most important lessons I took away from Michael was the importance of integrity and doing what you say you're going to do, and then also doing what is expected of you. Um, and the reason that it hit well is all business is a bunch of promises, expectations, and agreements that you have with employees, customers, and the paint store. And so your ability, or I'll say more specifically, my ability to identify these quote unquote contracts and agreements and then execute on them was in direct relation to how successful I could be. So I took that away, but I learned how to go door to door. I learned how to do estimates. I learned how to train other people to go door to door. And I trained how to manage other people that did estimates. And then I learned how to paint. And then I learned how to manage a painting site and how to manage multiple crews. And so he had me doing everything. I kind of climbed through the ranks, asked a lot of questions, listened to a lot of books, listened to a lot of great podcasts like yourself. And that's really what I focused on. So the end of the year came around, and he lived in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. He hated the traffic in Toronto, hated it. Like out of 10. He's like, I can't stand being in the car this long. So he decided to relocate his entire business to White Rock, BC. And so he moved. And before he left, I had this conversation with him. I'm like, hey, Michael, because I looked up to the guy. What do you think I should do? And he looked me square in the eye and he said, I think you should run a business, but you should do it with a franchise. He's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, why do you say that specifically? And he says, well, you're still new at this. And despite, whatever talents you have, there's more structure, more systems, more coaching and support that's out there for you that is available. Take advantage of that before going out on your own. And what he really was talking about was the danger of like ego. And different people define it differently. But one of my favorite authors, Ryan Holiday, he defines it as like an inflated sense of self. And so, he got me really into self-development, Michael Holly, and this concept of ego was important. I know it's kind of a side tangent, but I think till this day, I have to be very wary of ego because it kind of just sneaks up on you. I know Warren Buffett talks a lot about like your circle of competence, doing what you're good at, and always marking down your skills to what they really are. The problem with ego is it makes it seem like you're great at some things that you're not, which causes a lot of problems. And the bigger the business, the more people you're responsible for, the more dangerous it can be.
Yeah. Ego
So
is an enemy.
ego's the enemy. That's the great book, man. I come back to that book like almost on a yearly basis.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with ego in check, lessons in hand, and a good identification of my circle of competence, I decided to join a franchise. And powered with the mentorship I had, the mentorship that was available there for me, in my first year, did around like, this was back in 2017, 18, something like that. Did around 225,000. I had a foreman, 7 employees, and I sold everything through door to door. And what was really powerful about that model was because, again, my name is Amer Abu Shakra. I'm like this Middle Eastern kid. I grew up in the Middle East, came here when I was 12 years old. I have no connections. I'm the oldest of 2 brothers. I had this ambition to build something, but I had no connections, no word of mouth. I looked like a baby, so why would people trust me? So I had to rely on a marketing method that also didn't cost much money because I had no money. So I had no money, had no prospects, had no reputation. Door to door saved me. And getting good at door to door continues to give me and my business partner immense power and advantage over any of our competitions. So powered with all these things, we did really well. I did really well there. The company record at the time for the franchise has been around for 40 years. On average, they've overseen around like 70 locations per year. So we're talking about 2,800 to 3,000 locations they oversaw. So the record for like a first time painting business owner was like 157,000. So I was able to break that record by a bit, which was cool. And then when I came back, I wanted to do another year with the franchise, but with a goal. Goal number 1, never touch a painting brush. Goal number 2, make over 150,000. Goal number 3, train and manage a competent project manager and sales rep. That's why I wanted to come back. And at the time in the franchise, the all-time record, the greatest company that was built within it, was $310,000. That's how much it did in a year. And just for clarification, it's not like sales. I'm talking about like produced work. Okay.
Yep.
So the year chugs along. I create my goals. I start building these systems, and we were able to do it. I did $500,000 in my second year in the franchise. I had a sales rep that sold for me. He wasn't with me the entire year, but he was with me for a little bit. He was able to sell around, I think it was 150,000 for me. And I had a project manager that managed all of the paint, all the material, and all 6 of my job sites.
Nice.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And there was a moment I remember where there was a lead that my door knocking team got, that my estimator closed, that my production manager produced, and I've never met the customer, and I got that paycheck. And I think I did that with like 30 different jobs in my business, which was like, it was incredible. It was like an incredible feeling that I feel like every person should take advantage of. And I'm a big proponent of always sharing and talking about not just revenue, but also profit. This is a business podcast. And so I think a lot of us know revenue is vanity. It's a vanity number. Profit is sanity. But really, cash flow is reality. Which is why I actually like what you're doing with the bookkeeping for painters. You keep people humble. You have these guys celebrating they're doing $1 million. And then you look at their cash flow and it's like, hey, Bob, you made 50 grand, brother. It's like, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So on my 500,000, I took home just around 180,000 net. So for myself personally, not like money in the business or anything like that, which I was very proud of.
Yeah, no, that's a really strong. That's 36%
Correct.
cash flow to owner.
Yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
that's really strong because since you were you were doing most of the sales, it sounded like, but you still had a salesperson that was doing the other part of the
Correct,
sales,
correct.
and then you were leading the team. So we would typically, for someone in your position, we would be like recommending, try to hit 25% or higher, and so you blew that out of the water. 36%
Yeah,
is an amazing.
yeah. Thank you. No,
Um, yeah,
I really appreciate that. And I got to thank like, the coaches I have, but specifically like my dad, because he actually ran like a little perfume and makeup business back in Jordan where he would go like to Versace, buy some like perfume for women and then kind of like sell that from his office. It was pretty, he had like an assistant and a driver. It was kind of like a cool business. But he always kind of reminded me, it's like, hey man, like it's all good. You landed this $14,000 full exterior, but like we'll celebrate once you actually deliver on that promise and once you make some good profit. And that really kind of stuck with me.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's great. Were you with like College Pro or the
So
franchise?
the franchise I was a part of is
Yeah.
in Canada. They
Yeah.
primarily target people between the ages of 18 to 22,
Mm-hmm.
primarily students, and the company is called Student Works Painting East.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That makes sense.
Correct. So
Yep.
here's what happened, Daniel. I ran this business, and the most dominating emotion that I felt was guilt. Okay, specifically for a couple of reasons. One, I made a whole bunch of money. I made almost triple what my mom made. And I made more than some of my professors at university. I was still a full-time student, by the way, the entire time I'm running this business. But there was one incident. There was this painting company in this area in Toronto that was around for 20 years. And it was this guy who had like 40 years of experience as a painter, way better of a painter than I think I'll ever be. We drove him out of town. Way more talented at painting, way better of a painter. I want to make this clear. We had no customer complaints, 5-star reviews. We accomplished what we needed to accomplish. But the fact that he had to leave his neighborhood where he was known was primarily because we outperformed him as business operators. That's it. And so I was doing some reflection, some reflecting of July on that last year, that year, and when I was doing that 500K, and I was really asking myself, like, how many contractors out there are exceptionally amazing, gifted, and caring about the trade that they're in, but simply lacked that Michael Holly, simply lacked those systems and insights that I was so fortunate and really feel blessed to be able to land. I always think about like luck and the role God played in my life and all that, and I think I'm a very hardworking person. And if my dad decided that me and my brothers were better off in Jordan, or for whatever circumstances, I think I would be running like a little makeup and perfume business, and I wouldn't even know what the hell my potential was. So I feel very blessed and grateful. And I was like, okay, well, how can we maybe create a space to kind of pass on these blessings, these lessons? So I got permission from the executives of the franchise, and even got, again, like the blessings of the top guy from there to be like, okay, hey, you can go and help these people. You can go take some of the systems you've learned and you can go share them with the world. And one of the executives in StudentWorks, his name is Patrick. He basically took the franchise from 5 million to this year, 2024. They're going to finish at 35 million system sales. We're talking about 20 different locations, some painting businesses, some window cleaning. I think just painting locations. We were talking about 100 plus across Eastern Canada. So him and I partnered together in 2020 to start contracting.com. I'm a majority owner, and his role, really, I wanted to use his clout, his experience in the industry. I needed a partner who was walking the walk on a daily basis, actually practicing what we preach. And then I would go run the consulting firm. And so him and I developed and started contracting.com really from that vision. And really, if you ask me, what's our mission? I think it summarized here perfectly. Our mission is to help contracting business owners combat chaos, complacency, and ignorance through learning, coaching, and systems, developing them into integrous leaders for their clients, team, and family. So our ICP, our avatar, are moms and dads with kids under the age of 10, and they've built this business purely from word of mouth, and they're starting to realize, holy smokes, I can do a much more. And they usually get stuck with hiring competent crews, and then hiring a project manager, hiring a sales rep, or hiring an office assistant. And they come to us, and we help them find, hire, place, train, manage, and systemize these people for success, while making sure that there's enough work coming in to feed everybody in the company. So that's a little bit of kind of like some overview. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So were you born in Amman, Jordan, or?
yeah, Amman, Jordan. How do you know
Yeah,
Amman?
I've been there a few times. It's awesome. I love it. I love it
Are
there.
you serious? What are you
Yeah,
doing in Amman? What are you doing in Amman, Jordan, Daniel?
yeah. I used to. I was a military intelligence officer, so I went there on a couple deployments. So we
Holy
were working
smokes.
with the Jordanian Defense Force.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love to hit up some hookah, and uh, yeah, the food there is awesome.
Man, the
So
Jordanian Defense Force, they, I think, at one point got pissed off at ISIS, and they bombed them back to whatever cave they came from, man. It was like we were on the news for that back in the day. So
yeah, that was like 20, was it 2015?
something
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I was there, 2015,
That's
20,
amazing.
20, yeah, I think it was 2015. But no,
Amazing.
that's good
That's
stuff.
super cool.
The it's a great place. But so you started there. You when did you moved over when you're just a kid?
Yeah, I came here when I was 12.
Okay, and then started doing the working with the painting business that you start out with, and you were just in college or maybe even high school. Then
No,
you
no,
started,
college.
and then
Yeah.
Student Works Painting started that franchise, scaled it uh, to 500K, beating out all these other franchisees that had done it in the past with an amazing profit margin, and then partnering with um, Patrick to start contracting.com in 2020, helping contractors learn and grow their business. No, that's an amazing story. So
Thank you. Yeah, there's
yeah,
there's definitely a lot of hardship in there. I've definitely made a lot of mistakes, a lot of failures. Um, yeah. Just as a disclaimer, there was a lot of tumbles and mistakes. I'm definitely, yeah, I just want to make sure I say that.
yeah, no, I completely understand. Yeah. So leading into our kind of topic of today, to be able to scale your business, you really have to be able to hire and train good people, A players in your business to get it to the next level. So could you walk me through what should the mindset be of when you're looking for those key hires? Maybe you're a painting business owner and you've been doing all the sales and production management. Maybe you have a couple of crews, but you
Yeah,
need to bring in that first salesperson, that first production manager. What should we be looking for?
yeah, man. I'll actually, so there's a couple of elements to that. And I think the first and most important thing before you hire an A player is actually having a real conversation with yourself for a moment and asking yourself, but are you an A player? So I'll read you one of my favorite poems. And then I will dive into more of the tactics and the strategy and the how-tos. But here's like a self-assessment, whether or not you feel like you're an A player. I read this poem, and then depending on how I feel after reading the poem, I'm like, oh shit. Or okay, cool. It's called The Man in the Glass. You may have heard this before, Daniel. When you get what you want in your struggle for wealth, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. It isn't your father or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The one whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. He's the one you must satisfy beyond all the rest, for he's with you right up to the end. And you've passed your most difficult test if the man in the glass is your friend. You may be one who got a good break, then think you're a wonderful guy, but the man in the glass says you're only a fake if you can't look him straight in the eye. You may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass.
It's awesome. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, man, that's a contracting.com exclusive here. You heard it here first. No, I actually got it from university. One of my friends. It was a fraternity, Sigma Chi, and they had a bunch of rituals. This was one of them. There's some gold in some fraternities, but
Yeah, no.
so I say that, Daniel, because every time I struggle to retain or hire somebody, it's really because like I just wasn't worth it, man. I just wasn't like worthy. Like the best, I truly believe the best way to get anything you want in life is to deserve it. And like I just didn't deserve to have a good team at certain points. And so I think that level is what made me kind of really understand how important it is to not only have a business that has the cash that deserves to pay people well. Like if you want a top employee, like a sales rep or a foreman, you got to have the cash flow for it, right? So that's why working with you would make sense. But once you have the cash foundations, it's like, are you actually worthy as a leader? As a leader. And there were many times in my life where that wasn't the answer. You know, I would show up late in my spare time. I'd watch a bunch of YouTube. I'd care about, you know, how I looked on Instagram. I would delegate things not out of a place of efficiency. I would delegate out of a place of laziness. Some of my personal habits, you know, wouldn't eat healthy food, fast food here, fast food there. I mean, it's just like all there. Once I've actually cleaned up my shit, then all of a sudden it's like the right people show up. It's like, oh, this is interesting. Okay, when I actually have integrity, when I work hard, when I lead by example, people want to show up. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So these were some of the things I learned with Michael, and I was very lucky because in my first year of business, I had no one churn. Every person I hired returned for that second year with me. And in my second year with 16 employee, only one person actually ended up quitting. And it was all on amicable terms. So I was able to really create and foster this culture of performance, of care, of service for the customer. And here's how I did it. So number one, I cleaned up my act. And then number two, I think most people think of hiring as kind of like an admin task, but really it's more like marketing. So what you put in is what you get out. And so I think that's kind of the best analogy is you go to Angie's Leads, for example, and if you're going to Angie's Leads, God help you. I hope you find a better way to get your leads. It's fine, it's a great company, but I don't know if I would bet the bank on their leads. So let's say you pay for leads, you get the leads, you convert the lead in an estimate, and then you then need to service that customer. The framework is similar when it comes to building your like the team. At least that's how I think about it. I need to generate a bunch of leads, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, direct outreach on LinkedIn. A more complicated, sophisticated way is actually like scripting, writing out, filming, and launching Facebook ads that leads into a hiring funnel. And please, at any point you want me to expand it anything, just let me know. I'm going to give you the overview of how I think about this. Once you generate the lead, which is in the form of an applicant, you then need to qualify that lead. Is this the right person? Sometimes I would get like a school bus driver who's applying for a job as a project manager on Indeed. And I'm like, how the heck did you get in here, man? Which is okay. That's normal. What we actually found for like a project manager, you need around like 300 applicants before you hire one person. That's kind of like the ratio we found. But once you have that, you got to find a way to swift through it. So you need like an individual who can look through the resumes, know what to look for, what's a green flag, what's a red flag, and then move them into a quick 10 to 15-minute phone interview. Hey, do you have a driver's license? Hey, are you afraid of heights? Hey, can you carry more than 5 pounds or whatever? This is a quick competency check. And if they are competent, because some guys might have like a DUI or something. But part of what allowed me to get the profits that I wanted to get is I found a lot of painting business owners get bogged down with needing to purchase vehicles for the company. And so if you can actually just find and hire people with vehicles, you can already just remove like a giant $20,000 to $30,000 expense. So there's like a level and standard that I set for the type of person I would hire. And so all my guys had their own vehicles. That was key. That was key. Now, of course, what I typically hear, by the way, from contractors we work with is nobody wants to work in my town. The economy is tough. Anybody who's worthwhile is already hired. You know, the common things.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to break that down quickly, because if you believe these things, then you're not even going to try to hire. And if you're going to try to hire, the first thing you want to do is generate leads. So here's this analogy, Daniel. You ready for it? I'm going to ask you this question. What city are you in again? Remind me.
Orlando.
Orlando. How many people live in Orlando, in the city? Roughly.
No idea.
Let's see. Give it a quick Google.
Yeah, Orlando population is 300,000.
Okay, great. So some contractors I talk to don't have 300,000. Maybe they live in a town of like 4,000 people, 5,000 people. I think the toughest person that we have worked with lived on Manitoulin Island, which is like a couple of thousand people you're hiring from. And we were able to get success with him. But here's the analogy. Let's say I like rented out a football stadium and I got everybody in your city to show up in that stadium where you sat in front of them and you presented what the job is look like. Do you think it's possible that we can find 1 or 2 competent individuals to hire for a specific role?
Yes.
Dude, the answer is absolutely yes. Now, sometimes I get somebody saying to me, well, no, not really, Amer, because remember, everybody that's worth hiring already has a job. What that line of thinking discounts, Daniel, is that there's guys out there who used to run a contracting business who are retired, guys who are just moving into the city, guys who are working at a company that are leaving because their pay was capped, guys that are working at a company where their boss is shutting down the business, guys who are subcontractors that are now realizing, I don't want to be a subcontractor anymore. I just want to work for a company. So like, and then guys entering the workforce, guys that are like just like graduating university. So that's just, now that we've broken that belief down, we need leads. So we need a metric ton of applicants coming in. And so you bring the applicants in and then you have to go swift through them. So if you have a good filtering system, which I can go more in depth in, like, again, because we've probably done like with Patrick's business, my business, the customers we've worked with, like our clients, contractors. I mean, we've probably done over 10,000, like way more than that. Really, like just kind of like 15-minute interviews and easily multiple thousand in-person interviews. So that's what the funnel looks like. You have direct outreach, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter. You can use recruiters or placements or agencies. Okay, great. You bring those in, you interview them, you do the sales process. Now, if they're good, you first do like a phone interview, an in-person interview, and then you bring it out to audition for the day. Because you got to test their hard skill. So you measure their soft skills over the phone during the in-person interview, like over Zoom is what I mean by in-person. And then you bring them out to the job site. And here's what's key. It's super simple. Anybody can do this. Create a list of like the top 5 skills that are required for the role. So for a painter, like you got to know how to put up a ladder. You got to know how to sand, prep, putty, and you got to know how to roll, and you got to know how to like cut or edge. Okay, great. Bring him out to the job site and ask him or her to do those 5 things. And then just observe. And then, you see them pick up the ladder and they're like nearly breaking the windshield of the car next to them. And they don't know the 2-to-1 ratio or 3-to-1 ratio. They go up on the ladder and it looks like they've never climbed a ladder in their life. Okay, now you see them like sanding and, they're kind of like sanding way too aggressively and like way too tight. You see them put putty. They have no idea how to like, navigate, the tool. And you see them paint and they literally open up a paint can and then dip their entire paintbrush in there. I'm sure everybody just cringed at that idea right now, but that's how you measure hard skills. You gotta bring them out if they have the soft skills. So that's what that process looks like. If you like them, you have a contract sit-down meeting, you get clear on the expectations, you make him an offer, he says yes. Now, you gotta treat that employee as if he's your own customer. That's how you retain them. So if you have a customer, what would you need to do? Set expectations and make sure they're taken care of, daily communication, all these key things. So you got to do the same with the employee. There's got to be a good, solid onboarding program. Hey, here's these YouTube videos you got to watch. Here's these 5 skills you need to work on. Here's like my garage at home or this charity job that we have that you can practice these skills on. So it's not an actual client's house, which is a little tip. If you have a door-to-door team, just ask them to look for a door where the people need painting, but they can't afford it, and offer to paint that house throughout the entire year. And you're going to use that house to basically bring people that you're training on that house. So you can work on the back of the house that nobody could see. I had a customer like that. She had MS. She couldn't afford to like paint the house. We worked on her garage for the entire year. End of year came around. She just paid for the paint. We cleaned it up for her at the very end. We use that as a job site to just kind of test stuff out. So you can find people like that.
That's a great
Or
idea.
if you have an office or a warehouse, you can do that. But like a good solid onboarding training, good solid videos, an employee handbook. These are all things that we already have that we give people when they work with us. That's already kind of built out for them. And then all of a sudden you zoom out and you realize, holy smokes, I have a hiring, onboarding, and training funnel. And the quality of that hiring, onboarding, and training funnel is determined on you and your quality of leadership, which comes back to the man in the mirror. So that's the 30,000 foot view.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks that are in the painting business or painting industry, that they don't realize that the core of their business, they're a service business, and they have to have this dialed in. If they really want to grow their business past $300,000, you have to have a recruiting, hiring, training machine that can help you,
Daniel,
get to each level.
I'm gonna try to like flip the script a little bit. Like everybody out here saying they're running a painting business, but like how often are we interacting with the paint itself, and how much money are we actually spending on the paint? It's minimal. It's like barely anything. What we're actually running, we're not in the painting business. We're in the people business. We are talking to people, selling to people, hiring people, training people, firing people.
Yeah.
Paint is just like the excuse you're knocking on their door with. Like that's just
Right.
like, it's just a vehicle. And it just happens to be that. And I get it. The vehicle for some people is roofing and painting. But like if you had to draw it out as a percentage of like what percentage of the business is actually related to managing the paint and taking it from the can to the wall, it's not the majority of it. It's definitely a very important piece, but the majority of it is exactly what we're talking about here. It's managing humans, including yourself. Before you lead others, you must learn to lead yourself. Before you manage others, you must learn to manage yourself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it makes complete sense. So I love it. I love the idea of looking at your recruiting hiring system as just like you're looking at with marketing. You should have your marketing calendar and your recruiting calendar. You're just doing very similar things on making sure your production can keep up with your marketing. You got to continually run that machine. And if that machine is falling apart, you're not going to be able to hit your goals because it's your production won't be able to keep up with your marketing. So I
Yeah,
love
man.
I love how you're looking at it like that. That hiring is just your hiring process is just like your marketing process. You get the leads, or in this case, candidates, you qualify them, and then you interview them, take them through that process, and treat them like a customer when you onboard them to give them that great experience so you can retain them.
Amen, man.
Awesome. Well, you've been super generous with your time. How can folks learn more about yourself, contracting.com, and how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was a lot of fun. If people like this episode and they want to go more in depth, or they want to hear me go more in depth, where can they like reach out or comment? Is there a place that they can leave some comments and get some feedback?
Yes. So there is Grow Your Painting Business is the Facebook group that you can comment on this episode when we release it. If you have any questions, yeah, you can post them there
Yeah.
and Grow Your Painting Business on Facebook.
Yeah, I say that because I'm happy to come back and go more in depth. If your audience finds this useful, I can share about KPIs, what applicants look like, what to look for in resumes, what to look for in-person interviews. I can bring some call recordings that you and I can review together live of a painting contractor doing an interview and the red flags he missed and why that happened. What a good onboarding training is. Why most leaders or painting business owners just can't retain people, and what character traits they should look out for, how to hold people accountable, what a good culture looks like, when you should create mission, vision, values. I mean, I can go in depth here. Because again, we were able to kind of grow this to like 35 million. So there's just like a bunch of little pieces and puzzles. But if you're listening to this and you're recognizing that like you're stuck on the tools, you're working evenings and weekends, you have the work in place, you're booked out like a month or two in advance, but you just can't seem to find a good painter, can't seem to build a solid crew, can't seem to find that pesky foreman or project manager to help replace you from being that driver driving materials around and driving for like 30 hours a week from job site to Sherwin-Williams and back and all the other places. Then open up your phone, go to go.contracting.com, go.contracting.com, fill in your information. We will send you a video. There should be a video there that explains our methodology, what we do. And our guarantee is that we can get you off that job specifically, off the day-to-day task in 60 days, or you don't pay. So if you're stuck on the tools, we can get you off the tools. And if you're stuck as a foreman, we can get you a foreman. If you're stuck in the office, we can get you an office assistant. Now, obviously, for that guarantee to work, you have to carry your own weight, and we're very selective in the people we work with, because this does take work and effort. But that's where you can find me. That's what we are world class at. And if you're curious about, if you're curious about our client results, just go to contracting.com/reviews, or you can just Google contracting.com. I believe we are the most reviewed consulting company for contractors right now in Canada. And I believe the United States, I want to say the United States, we literally have like 10 hours plus of client testimonials and some really incredible stuff. So Our expertise is in painting. We run a painting business, but we work with contractors alike because, again, we run people businesses, whether you're doing roofing or painting, is that. But the nuanced parts of painting, we understand wholly. So if you're listening to this and you want to just at least jump on a call with my team, see if we can help you out, send you some free resources, by all means, go to go.contracting.com.
Awesome. And we'll include the link in the show notes as well. And really appreciate your time, Amer. It's been amazing. I love your story. It's great stuff. And we'll definitely have you on for part 2 as well and dive into some of the details on hiring. But with that, any last thoughts before I let you go?
Yeah, honestly, like the only reason I'm able to get to where I am today is due to the quality of the people I surround myself with. There's this old saying in programmers, like for programmers that build softwares, they say garbage in, garbage out. And so continue listening to these podcasts, but I would say the biggest lever would be to surround yourself with like-minded people. So if you're in that Facebook group that Daniel's talking about, like I encourage you to like message a person today that's in the community, say hello, jump on a call with them, build a relationship, find out how they're smarter than you in different things. People are generous. People who have achieved certain things want to help. So come at it with that frame and don't be afraid to ask questions. So Daniel's obviously built a great community, so use it. So please do so.
Awesome. All right. With that, we'll see you next week.